At the bottom of the bushes?
Oh, yeah.
Just can't stand on the front row.
Alright, back up.
We hope. Well, we don't. I don't know whether to hope or not, because when we get a bat, it's really clean. I'm going to go ahead and start with my presentation. The bats are coming out again, and I'll kind of slow it down. But I want y'all to know what's going on. And I did say 6:30 on the recorder. I think it's going to come up at 6:30. Anyway, my name is Vicki Ritter. And I am the 2014 Ethel Jones Riverback Cave Steer. This is my 9th season. My daughter Melissa did it 3 years before me. Now I can talk a little louder because my voice is going that way. If any of y'all over there talk, it's going to go straight into the cave. If you're little or if you have a feminine voice, if it goes in there, the little ones, it sounds like the little ones, and sometimes they do this and they fall to the ground. And when they fall to the ground, in about a minute they're boned. They can't get back up. So, and they don't just come down by themselves. They're in a square foot. There's going to be about 500 babies, and so they intertwine to kind of to hang on. And if somebody screams or throws a rock or whatever and it upsets them, one will pull down from fright, and it'll pull 15, 20, 50, or 100 down, and immediately they're eaten up by the beetles. So, because they're not birds, they don't have stiff wings like a bird. I thought I heard somebody else. Did y'all? Okay, go ahead. Now, if a little bunny comes in, that's Blinky, and she's probably about 10 years old. Don't throw rocks at her or run at her, especially the little ones. Don't run at her because she's used to coming in here. We've got Olivia that comes down. That's Blinky. And she has her babies, but she's getting so old now that she can't really get away from the hawks. So she waits for us to get here, and a lot of times she'll come in and eat on these in between the seats. If she comes between your feet, just look at her and smile and wave. She'll just blink at you. But because she's old, she wants protection from the hawks and owls. Anyway, this is, like I said, my 9th season. I do work for the Nature Conservancy. And tell you a little bit about the cave itself first. If you look at this area right here, and I do have pictures, I don't know if they've been sent around, of the cave. It's only about this size right here. If you were to take this, flip it upside down because it is dome shaped in there, it's only about 65 feet wide, it's about 45 feet tall. We have 10 foot of guano, which makes it about a 35 foot drop. So all of it's full. The floor has about 10 foot of guano that breeds these beetles that will eat the bats. They'll eat flesh. For all y'all on the front row. So really, I'm not kidding, and that's why I do fuss. I don't want people to think I'm just picking on your kid or on your husband or on your wife. It's because I am scared to death that if you go over, we have to put a wall up. It's going to block everybody here from seeing over. That's just the regulations that we've got. We've done this 9 years. My daughter did it 3. Next year will be our 25th anniversary for Bat Conservation and Nature Conservancy having stewardship of this place. So we've never lost anyone yet. Yet. That's why y'all signed a liability waiver. But it was donated by the Eckerts in 1990 to the Nature Conservancy and Bat Conservation International with the thought that we would preserve the bats and everything else on the property. We have a little skunk named Geraldine. If you leave early, because it will have several different emergencies, and sometimes the seats get a little rough or the kids get a little tired, or you get thirsty and just want to leave. If you go back on the trail and this big skunk comes running at you, please don't throw rocks or try to kill it with a stick. We've had people run down here and say, there's a rabid skunk on the trail, let's go kill it. And I'm like, no, that's Geraldine. She's very nosy and she'll come right up to you. Act like she's got rabies and stay away from her. Just back up, talk, baby talk, don't throw anything to see what she'll do, because she does have all of her working parts. All of the animals out here do. So we had a lady from Chicago that was going to send her little 4-year-old back up to the parking lot to get a drink. And I said, ma'am, didn't you see she said, oh, the Watch for Snakes sign? And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I'm not worried about that. The state couldn't afford to have anything out here that would hurt you. This is primitive. Primitive means they all are here and they all have hearts that work, otherwise they wouldn't be alive. So just be cautious of that. Anyway, the wall that we have here was used back during the Civil War times. They used to mine guano from different bat caves around Texas for dynamite and gunpowder. That's why we do not open during the time when it's raining or has rained, because there's lightning or thunder in the area around, because it can spontaneously combust from the nitrogen, and I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. But we don't want to be sitting here and all of a sudden be going back to Mason. People say, well, this is my only time in. I'm in the UK. Can I come out here and visit? It's the lightning and thunder And I think y'all had electricity that struck some of your fence and just went on down welding it. I don't want to be welded to a gate, and y'all don't want to be flown all the way back to Mason. So anyway, we do have right at 8 acres, 7.93 or 83 here on the premises. The 1 acre was donated and the other was purchased, so it was a purchase donation from the Eckert family. Sorry, that's kind of strong for me right now. Anyway, there are over 1,100 species of bats in the world. The world's largest is called the flying fox or the fruit bat. Anybody have any idea what it would eat?
Fruit.
There you go. But if I used to have a picture, and this is true up until this year, and I've done this 9 years, had the pictures that were blown up like this for 8 years. I've shown that thing, 4 nights a week, I can't tell you for that 9 years or 8 years. And I had this picture of the fruit bat it has a 6-foot wingspan. And this guy's holding this bat, and I say, this is the world's largest, can have a 6-foot wingspan. Ours has about a 6-inch wingspan. So I compare them. This little boy came up to me, and he came over and he said, Miss Ritter? And I said, yes. And he said, it's all wrong. And I said, what's all wrong? He said, didn't you hear what you said in your presentation about when, with bats, when you work with bats, you always have to have your hands covered? And I said, yes. He said, the picture's wrong. Little bitty kid. And I looked at the picture, and I've done this forever, and it's the first time it's ever brought to my attention. The man's holding it with bare hands. It is a flying fox or fruit bat, but any mammal can get rabies, and these are mammals. The chance of these getting rabies, there's about 4 to 5 that will contract rabies in the time that they're here. We have at peak around 14 million bats. So there's about 600 children each year in the United States get killed in bicycle accidents. So to show you the ratio of people being more fearful of a bicycle than of a bat. Just never touch a bat or interact with a bat because they can. But not only that they can give you something, but you can give them stuff. Right now we have what they call the white nose syndrome that's hit up around New Jersey and New York. It hit in 2005. It's now down in Tennessee and Oklahoma, and it's devastating. It actually does about a 99% kill rate when it hits a colony. So far it hadn't hit the freetails. They found one myotis, which is one of the bats on the backside that have a really neat symbiotic relationship with the freetails. And almost every time you have a large colony of freetails, you'll find the K-myotis close by. So we don't know how that's going to act yet with us, but so far it's a fungus that grows on their nose and mouth so that they cannot echolocate to find food, so they starve to death. And so far it's been in cold colonies. This one's very warm and dry, and this they like it wet, so far it hadn't hit. So of the 1,100 species, the United States has 47 species. You can find bats all over the world in every continent except the Arctic and Antarctic, but everywhere else. And there's ones that are, like I said, these are insectivores. We have ones that are pollinators. We have like the fruit bat that just eats fruit. We have some bats that eat scorpions, some that fish. So there's all kinds of bats. But our 2 species that we have on the preserve right now are the Mexican freetail here, and then the K-myotis in the back. They are all insectivores. They all eat small bugs that will fit in your mouth that have wings. So if you're going back up the trail, and because I weed eated recently, and it doesn't look like it because it's already growing back, but they'll use that for a racetrack. And if you're running up the trail, which most people can't run uphill, but if you're running up there, you're going around a corner really fast, and they're flying, they can get up to about 40 miles an hour on that trail. And if you collide, it's not that they're trying to turn you into a vampire or suck your blood. And I've had older people come out to visit, and they've been fearful all their life, and they've got this thing in for the bats. We've had a guy that came out that does this little coffee run at 6 in the morning at one of the restaurants, and then at 3, and he came out with his grandson. He didn't want to be here, but he when he was leaving, he was going around the corner down there and took that trail, and a bat kind of came by like this. They're the myotis. At about 9 o'clock, they come out from the back and they get real up close and personal. It's like a Disney moment times 10. It is awesome. It's even better than this to me because it's something that's really, really unusual. And they're getting like these flies and the gnats. But anyway, he went back into town and told everybody there that he drank coffee with that the bats had tried to attack him and turn him into a vampire. So somebody told me that he had said it, and I looked him up and I said, did you say that? And he said, uh-huh. He said, but it did. It flew right at my neck. I said, no. I said, did it bite you? No. And I said, well, did you hear anything that I said during my presentation? He said, all I heard was, blah, 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 blah. I didn't want to be there. And I said, well, So I gave him this 30-minute spiel about bats and that he didn't have wings, so he was either not angelic and he wasn't a flying insect. The bat was not interested in him. So he came back out later and he really enjoyed it. So if they do come at you, please don't hit at them. Or even when they're coming around here, if you're here at 9, don't put your hands up to try to catch them or interact with them in any way. There she goes. Isn't she beautiful? Yep, they're lining up. They know something's fixing to happen. Anyways, anybody know what this is called?
Judas.
Have you been here before? Go back, girl. But you know, usually when you're 30 and under, sometimes people say it's a location.
Nothing. Just sit down.
But 31 and
They're looking at the snake.
say radar or something.
Because the snake's getting ready.
But radar and sonar are a biomimetic technique taken from echolocation. Now, are bats blind?
No.
We gotta know. Do we have any yeses? Huh? You were taught that?
I thought they were too.
Well, she's a teacher. Are bats blind? No. Okay, we have some yeses and some no's. I've got a bat named Miss Batty. Does anybody want to hold her?
Yes.
Do you raise your hand? You gotta hold it up. Two of them.
Miss Batty.
No? You want to hold
Do you
her?
want to hold the bat?
You gotta hang on to her. Eh. Now this is Miss Batty. This is our bats. Two nickels. This is an adult. This is as close as you should ever come to wanting to hold a bat. For real. But you hold her anyway because we have something going. I didn't mean to embarrass you, but you were the closest one. He wouldn't raise his hand. You put it in the palm of your hand.
Hey, I need a fish.
Yeah, you could do it first. Then you pass it on, because when you put it in the palm of your hand, this is our bats, an adult. This is what I'm going to net and bring to you to show you. When I have her in my hand, that's her face, her wings, everything. If you were to put two little eyes on that little body, they're going to see about this far or over here peripherally. But with echolocation, they actually, the sound comes out their nose. These, it'll come out their mouth on both of these species. So they open their mouths and they got this real high-pitched sound. They can go up to 150 feet, bounce onto something, come back, and they can identify something as fine as a human hair at 150 feet. That's why they use echolocation. Now, talking about that bat coming up to visit y'all in a little bit, when I net her and I bring her up to you, that's why I'm passing the nickels around. I have her in my hand, and he's told me he hates bats. He's been sitting here 30 minutes telling me how much he hates them. So, you know, when I net one, they are the cutest little things, and they're a lot littler than they look out here, so I want him to appreciate it. So I'm coming over here, and he's like, oh, shaking. So I have her in my hand, and I've got gloves on, and I'm doing this, and they can thin out as thin as 2 sheets of paper. So I'm doing this, and I feel her starting to slide, and I'm like, oh, right in his face, because I want him to be sure to see the little wrinkles on her face. So I'm doing this, and her mouth pops open. Guess whose cameras? Everybody here, that's probably the only picture they will get, and she'll have her mouth open right in his face. Guess where they post it? And then I get calls from all over the world that say, we were coming, we're from Canada, but we looked we saw this on YouTube, and this guy, and a lot of times it's kids, and you're putting this bat in this kid's face to bite it. And I'm like, and their little mouth is open. It's only, she's saying, please let up. You know, you're a big old lady wearing gloves, and I'm this little bitty tiny bat. So if you let up, when I feel her starting to slide, I have to push down a little bit. If I let up just a little bit, you can feel almost like they're purring. You feel this little thing.
That's how big it is.
She gets real relaxed, but never try that at home. And the reason that you have gloves on is because rabies, if they should be carrying rabies, if you find one in your home or if you find one at a school, you always have your teacher put on gloves, and that is not to pick it up. That is just to cover your hands in case you've got little cuts, because rabies in the bats are only passed on through the saliva, not through the blood or through the urine. So your hands are covered when you're getting a box or you're getting a net or something to get her off or away from the kids, or you're a teacher. So if you saw one in the gym, which we do every year, or in the school, a lot of people get them in their homes, you just want to get it in and then take it out. You don't have to kill it. If it has rabies, it's going to die in just a couple of days. If it doesn't have rabies, it could be something, maybe they're just really tired, or they're really old, or they're really young. So you don't necessarily have to kill them, but do not interact with them. Now, the only difference is if you have like a baby or a small child, or somebody that maybe has Alzheimer's, something along that, dementia, and you come in and there's a bat in there, well, you don't know if it's interacted with that child or that person or not. So what you want to do is you want to get it, contain it, and then have it sent off. The health department or the sheriff's office will do that for you, and that way you can be sure if it's interactive, you want to take measures to take care of that. But inside, when they do get, if they contract anything, it would be contagious to the colony. Instead of just reaching over and grabbing and biting the next one, because they're very, in a square foot, there's going to be about 400 adults and about 500 to 600 babies. So if they were to reach over and just bite, pretty soon the whole colony would be wiped out. But in here and out there, if they get sick, immediately they know it because their metabolism is very fast. So when they're sick, they know it instantly. They will drop down. If they're in town, you know, just make sure you have your dogs and cats vaccinated. If you see a child with it again, you'd want to contain that one if you could. But in here, what happens is they'll drop down. There are beetles in the cave, and they'll take care of them very shortly. So the disease is gone, and so are the bats. So, reminder, is that these are the beetles. Y'all thought I was kidding, but there's proof. See, guys? See why I make you sit down? This is actually a square foot that's blown way up so everybody can see it. These little tiny beetles, they're only about the size of a red ant. They're very, very tiny, but they are voracious. They're like land piranhas. They have little, like those curly fries you can get at some of the restaurants. Their antennas do this. They're beautiful. My daughter took a picture of one. They have this red and there's blue, but on the stomach they have a little white. They're beautiful little bugs, but they can, one-on-one, they can pinch blood. But with what's in there, they can strip that down in about 3 to 5 minutes. It will look like that when it comes to the ground. That's an adult. About a minute for a pup. So, and they're mammals, flying mammals, but they're not birds, so they don't have that stiff wing. And in fact, of this picture, if you look at this is like an arm with a hand, thumb, finger, covered with a real fine membrane. It's of the order Chiroptera, which actually means hand wing. So they're not birds. They use it just like a person can do their arm in their hand. And that's why they can't get right back up. That's why they make that, the rotation is to get them up and out real quick. Now with these beetles, doing this with the skeleton, they also, taxidermists, pathologists, and forensic scientists a lot of times these days will actually use these domestic beetles instead of maggots or chemicals to clean their specimens, because they will eat it to a shiny, clean bone very, very shortly. Not as quick as in here, because we do have 10 foot of guano, and they breed a whole bunch of the beetles one-on-one. If they were to clean a specimen, it might take, weeks or months for them to do that, a human. Me, probably a year, 3 months, 2 weeks, and a day. But I'd be like that too. They'll even eat right in here, the nasal membrane, because it's not bone, it's actually membrane. So they'll even eat that. So that's what they'll do. Now we're going to get back to the smell. What produces a smell that you smell coming out of there? Do y'all smell it? Mm-hmm. You won't in a little while. When you go back, especially if you're going to town to get a drink, did you enjoy the back cave? Did you fall? How do you know I'm here? But you smell just like that times 10. So they do know. But what produces that smell? Go ahead.
The guano?
That's one. I heard him tell you that. That's why you said it. You trusted him, didn't you? But we're gonna fix that. Anybody else have any ideas? He's half right, sort of. It is an ammonia, but it's produced by something else. The beetles, she listens, she's been here, she cheated. Yeah, the beetles actually they're carnivorous. They'll eat the bat when it falls to the ground. They'll eat the guano, and the guano, this looks big, like rocks, but they're like little tiny mouse poos. The beetles will eat it, change it to a real fine powder. This is limestone, so when it rains, it leaches it down, and eventually it will wash out. But, not all the way, we always have about 10 foot. But when they eat it, the guano and the bat, so he's going to be half right because they do eat the guano. But when they eat this, when they use the restroom, the beetles use the restroom, their excrement and urine hit the water vapor in the air, it produces a chemical reaction. The result of that is this real strong ammonia that you smell. Now bats have a musty smell, their urine smells like pinkle, and their guano smells like little poops. But all in all, that's not that real strong smell that gets up here and kind of catches in your throat. It really is an ammonia. In fact, the bats, it's toxic to the bats. That's why they're blowing that out. Oh, she looks really nice. That's 2 of them.
What kind of snake y'all are?
No, that's the same one. Oh, I thought she was one of them. She's called a black whip snake.
Is she poised?
Indigo? No.
She's
But,
not like a
but
rat.
if you see one in the road, they're not like these, they'll crawl across your feet. They will actually chase you. We've had herpetologists that come out and are freaked out because they're all up in here. I said they are, in fact, she's on the Dallas Morning News a couple of years ago. We had a film crew
They're starting to
come
get
out.
real
And
active.
when I started talking about the snakes, this guy put his feet up on the bench because I told him she'd come up because she loves cameras. And he thought I was joking. And about that time, here she came. And she's never gotten in the crowd. She just goes across the front and does her thing. But she looked over. She was right here. She looked up because they had that big TV camera right there. And she's like, whoa. And she went around and she came right back in there. And she's right on that bench, right where the camera was. And they've got a really good segment on her. I don't know if it's still posted, but it was on the Dallas News. Anyway, how the bats deal with this toxin in there besides blowing the cave out. When they come out, they have a really fast metabolism. So as they come out, they fly, they breathe normal. When they start back in, they're going to slow their breathing down. And as they slow it way down, it builds up carbon dioxide in the front lobe for the respiratory. So as they fly into the cave, the carbon dioxide is going to dissipate the ammonia when she takes a breath. Another breath, dissipate, another breath. So she has that store for what she needs. She stores that up. But if somebody, like years ago before we got these nice fences up, and they would drive in here and back up, maybe throw rocks up in there or shoot up in there, she's sleeping, and so she's going, you know, because if somebody shot at you and you were asleep, you'd probably breathe a little harder too. So, and a couple of those, and she's out of breath, she'll drop to the ground and be eaten by the beetles. So we don't want to ever bother bats when they're in their area, and especially, you know, doing something like that. When she's in there just sleeping, because people say, well, how do they deal with it normally when they're in their sleep? They go into what they call a torpor, which is like a mock hibernation. Everything slows down almost to the point of death. Nothing's being used hardly. So they just use minute little amounts, and that's how they deal with that. All right. I promise you, we're getting to the bats now. We are. On this little acreage that we have, it's kind of a super acreage, we have the front part here. Now this right here is about what this room inside here is that the free-tails use. Then there's a slide that goes up like that and goes up to the back side where these will come out. These are called cave myotis, and it's myotis. These bats, we have about 10,000. It's maternity colony, male, female, and pups. They each have one pup, the female. I said that the other day, and this boy said, the boys have babies too? No, they each parent or couple have a baby called a pup. Now these are going to weigh 15 grams, 2 nickels. They're going to weigh the 2 nickels. These weigh just a frog hair away from 2 nickels. But when they're out here flying around and about 9 o'clock comes and the others come in through the trees, you can see their little short wings. They're like little helicopters. They're going to come and eat the bugs that these normally would. If these were in Mexico, they would eat the bugs that are flying around that these myotis are going to get. But here they don't. Their diet's different. So these are going to come around, and they're like little helicopters coming in between you. They're the ones that are going to fly real close by your face and get all the bugs. Now these, like I said, they would eat any flying bug that's small enough to go into their mouth. When they're in Mexico, that's what they do. We're going to back up so that we can know what's going on. We're going to back up to October, because in October they go back home. Usually it's the first significant cold front. So we're going to say it's getting cold. The cold front's coming in the first week of October. So they're going to take off and go back. And they do layovers all the way down. It takes 2 or 3 weeks for them to get. They live in caves all through this little mountain range through the middle of Mexico. So as they get down there, they don't all live in one cave. But even though here they'll come every year, if they're born here, they'll come every year to give birth. When they get there, they have separate little areas that they live. So when they get down to their cave, the males from that colony will come out because they've had to stay home and take care of the house down there. So they'll come out singing these beautiful love songs to the females. Now, we don't know if it's Latino or maybe pop or classical, country and western. Whatever it is, that song that they're singing that she likes, she goes off and breeds with him. One little girl said, well, what if she likes 2 of them? I have to fight that one out. But anyway, but when she breeds, she doesn't get pregnant at that point. She is not pregnant. They have what they call delayed fertilization. So while she's down there, they get down there about the end of October. So about November, December, January, February, March, and about the beginning of April, they're going to start back up. But for those other months that they're down there, they're going to fly around and they're going to eat bugs that have wings that are small enough to fit in their mouth. About 500 to 600 in an hour for their metabolism, those tiny bugs. If they're bigger, less, of course. But so about 500 or 600 of the little ones, and they eat 8 hours in a night. So it would take just a ton of energy, and it would almost be impossible for them to catch twice that many. Because if they'd have become pregnant at that point, they would have had to have a bigger diet to make the baby be bigger and grow bigger. And then once they have them,